Grace Okonkwo had a husband other women whispered about in envy. Christopher Okonkwo, Chris, was handsome, rich, and in those first months of their marriage, devastatingly attentive. He left her notes inside her shoes. He texted her love at odd hours of the afternoon for no reason at all. The Banana Island mansion he bought her had 6 bedrooms, a garden that looked curated by God, and a master closet so large she had once got lost in it and laughed until her sides ached. That was then. 2 years into the marriage, Grace flinched when she heard his car pull into the compound. Not from excitement, from habit, from survival. It had started small, the way rot always does. A sharp word here, a shove there. Then his hands found her properly one night after she served pepper soup he decided was too salty. And something between them broke so completely that even the silence after felt different. Heavier. Permanent. She learnt the grammar of his moods, the way you learn a dangerous road. Where to slow down. Where not to look. Where the ground could give way beneath you. She learned to move like a woman trying not to take up space in her own home. Yet when his business partners filled their living room on Friday evenings, Chris draped his arm around her shoulder and called her his queen. His colleagues toasted them. His friends told Grace she was lucky. She smiled the way she had learned to smile, wide enough to hold everything in. Later that night, alone in the hallway, she caught her reflection in the gold-framed mirror he had picked himself. She barely recognized the woman looking back. The light in her eyes had gone somewhere. She could not remember exactly when it left. "When did you change?" she whispered at his image, long after he had walked past her without a word. The mirror gave her nothing, but her body did. That Tuesday morning, sitting on the cold marble of their bathroom floor, Grace stared at 2 pink lines on a test she had been too afraid to take for weeks. Her hand shook. She pressed it flat against her stomach, and for the first time in months, she felt something move inside her that was not fear. She would not tell Chris. Not yet. Not until she understood exactly what this child was going to cost her or save her. Chris told her on a Friday evening, the way a man announces a business decision he has already signed. He didn't sit her down. He didn't even look up from his phone. "I'm bringing in a second wife. Her name is Ife. She moves in next week. You will make her feel welcome." Grace set her wine glass down before it slipped from her fingers. "Chris, if you can't accept it," he said, finally raising his eyes, flat and certain as concrete. "The door is there, and you will leave exactly the way you came, with nothing." She tried. She reasoned. She pleaded. She reminded him of vows he had spoken in church with tears on his face. He listened with the patience of a man who had already decided. And then he stood up and left the room while she was still talking. Ife arrived on a Wednesday. She was 23. Beautiful, in a way that filled the room before she entered it. And she looked at Grace once, slowly, deliberately. The way you look at furniture you plan to replace. She unpacked into the master bedroom. She gave instructions to the maids as though Grace did not exist. She rearranged the living room, ordered new curtains, and laughed with Chris in a low, intimate way that echoed through walls Grace had chosen herself. When they were alone, Ife dropped the performance entirely. "You should just pack your things and go," she said one afternoon, her voice honeyed with contempt. "You are embarrassing yourself. He is done with you. Even you can see that." Grace said nothing. She was growing very good at saying nothing. But inside, something that had been dormant for 2 years, something old and iron-willed, was waking up. She touched her stomach once, beneath the table, where no one could see. That night, long after the house fell silent, Grace sat in the guest room she now called hers and opened her laptop. She typed one name into the search bar, Emeka Duru. Her oldest friend, now a financial consultant in London. Her hands were steady. Her mind was clear in a way it hadn't been in years. She had made a decision. She was not going to fight for this marriage. She was going to take it apart, piece by piece, and walk out carrying everything that was rightfully hers. Grace had spent 2 years becoming invisible in her own home. She had not realized until now how much she had seen. She knew Chris's passwords. She had once entered them herself at his request early in the marriage when he was performing the role of a progressive, trusting husband. She knew the account numbers, the dormant company reserve he had never bothered to restructure, the joint investment portfolio he had set up in both their names during their honeymoon, tender and smiling, saying, "Because everything I have is yours." He had never imagined he would need to take that back. She was careful. She moved the way she had learned to move in this house, quietly, without disturbing anything. She called Emeka from a new SIM. She visited a property lawyer on the pretext of a spa day, dressed well, her face composed. She opened an account in her maiden name, Grace Adebayo again, if only on paper, if only for now. Over 3 weeks, she transferred carefully, not greedily, not vindictively. Enough to start somewhere, enough to raise a child without fear, enough to breathe. She still smiled at Chris over dinner. She still said good morning to Ife. She helped plan his associate's birthday dinner and ironed the shirt he needed for a meeting without being asked. She was performing now too, and she was better at it than either of them would ever know. Her cousin Ada drove her car on Thursday evenings while Grace ran what Chris believed were errands. The bags she packed slowly over many nights, one item at a time, like a woman rationing hope, now sat in Ada's boot. Her passport was renewed. Her ticket was bought. Her appointment with a London clinic was confirmed for 22 weeks. She looked around the house one last evening with fresh eyes. The marble floors, the curated garden, the gold-framed mirror in the hallway where she had once barely recognized herself. She recognized herself now. It was Ife who nearly destroyed everything. 2 nights before Grace's flight, she found Ife rifling through the guest room, drawers open, wardrobe ajar. Their eyes locked across the room. Ife's gaze dropped to the small slip of paper on the dresser, a bank reference number. Grace watched her pick it up and read it. A slow smile spread across Ife's face, and she looked up with the expression of a woman holding a grenade. "What exactly?" Ife said softly. "Are you planning, Grace?" Grace looked at Ife for a long moment. Then she smiled, slowly, without warmth, without fear. The smile of a woman who had already won and was simply waiting for the world to catch up. "Planning?" she said. "Nothing you need to worry yourself about." She took the slip from Ife's fingers, placed it in her bra, and walked out of the room. She could feel Ife's eyes on her back. She did not turn around. That night, she moved her flight. Earlier by 36 hours. She called Ada at midnight. Ada didn't ask questions. She said, "I'll be outside at 4. Grace woke at 3:45 a.m. She dressed in the dark,
dark trousers, flat shoes, a coat she had bought specifically for London weather. She stood in the doorway of the guest room and looked at the marble floors catching the thin grey light, at the curtains she had chosen, at the life she had tried so hard to make worth staying in. She did not write a note. He did not deserve an explanation. She walked to the front door, opened it, and pulled it closed behind her with a sound so quiet it was almost kind. Ada was waiting. The car moved through the empty Lagos streets without a word between them, and Grace pressed her hand flat against her stomach
and breathed, really breathed for the first time in 2 years. Chris discovered she was gone at noon, the funds by evening. His lawyer was on the phone before midnight, but by then, Grace's plane had already touched down at Heathrow, and she was walking through arrivals with her chin up and her eyes wide open, and her daughter's first kick happening somewhere above her hip, quiet and certain as a promise. She found a flat in East London. She enrolled in an interior design program. She called her mother and cried until there was nothing left to cry, and her mother said, "You are home now. You are finally home." 6 weeks later, Grace Adebayo, not Okonkwo, never again, gave birth to a girl. She named her Sochima. God has answered my prayers. The baby had Grace's nose and a gaze so steady, it seemed like she had already decided something important about the world. Ife moved through the mansion as if she had won something. She would discover in time that a beautiful house and an indifferent man is not a prize. But that is a different story. This one ends here, in an ordinary London flat on an ordinary morning with a woman who walked out of a gilded cage carrying nothing but her name and her child, and found that it was, against all odds, more than enough.